Hello everyone, Linda Israel here, and I'm going to show you how to make this project right here. It is going to be a page in a junk journal, but this could also be a great technique to play with to give as a greeting card as well. So come along and watch as I share how to make this little journal page, or it could be a fancy greeting card. I'm using the Brutus Monroe Roses Botanical Background and the Rose, and it's not called that, it's called Botanical Banners, but has the rose in it. I've already got them loaded in my Misty, but I just wanted to share what those were. The reason I'm making this particular style of a journal page was I had these envelopes, and I've had them for a really, really long time. The place that I used to work used to put their microfilm in this for keeping and sending back and forth for processing. And they did not put any adhesive on this portion of the envelope. I have over 500 of these, and they were going to throw them away when they stopped using this method, and I took them. So I've had them, I think I've had them over 10 years, probably closer to 15, maybe 17, because they went from microfilm to digital a while back, and that's probably how long ago that was. So I thought, well, these would be a great page in my journal, and I've decided that if I were to fold this in half, it would make a great little page, and then it's going to have a bonus with it as well. So these envelopes are approximately, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 5.5 by 7.5, okay? So I've folded this in half, and I've got my Misty loaded with the first stamp that I want to use, and that is the Botanical Background. And what I'm doing is I put my page into the lower corner of my Misty, and I have just a smidge of magnets that are holding this side down. I've got the Brutus Monroe embossing ink, and I'm going to emboss this onto the envelope and use gilded as the embossing powder. Now, I failed to do this, but if you are a person that wants no extra loose embossing powder, you'll want to use like a Static Buddy or an embossing, it's not powder, but what I've created, if you can't see, this is pantyhose that's been washed, but I filled it with talc powder or baby powder. And what that does is it helps act as a little bit of a barrier for that powder to come free easy by just tapping, and it keeps your oils from your fingers leaving prints. So I'm just going to ink this up and stamp it with the embossing ink. It may be hard to see, but that image is on there. I'm going to set this aside for a moment, and then I'm going to use the gilded embossing powder. Alright, so I've got the powder on here, and I just tapped it off onto a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to return it back to the jar so I don't waste any. I'm going to use my heat tool, and I'm going to heat the embossing up so that it will set on the paper. Now, embossing powder has product in it that it gets hard. And what I like about the Brutus Monroe, it doesn't have all the wax in it that a lot of the other embossing powders do. And so it doesn't put off this horrible smell whenever you're heating it up like some of the others do. So I'm going to heat this up gradually and carefully without scorching the paper. Alright, so the first side has been embossed. You don't want to touch this right away because it will be hot and it can burn your hands, and it will also smear. But I'm going to get my Misty back out, and I'm going to do the other side. of this little envelope. So I'm just folding it back over. I'm going to stick it in the corner over here with a little bit of the magnets on it. I'm going to emboss this with the same embossing powder and ink. I'm going to use some distressed ink from Tim Holtz. This one is Vintage Photo. I'm going to go around the edge of this envelope, adding a little bit of color. I'm going to set this aside for a moment and work on my next portion. For the page foundation, I'm trying to make these pages the same size as the pages I'll be putting in a junk journal. I'm doing a Calico Collage junk journal kit. So what I want to do is cut these so that the pages will match and line up, because I like to have mine match in my journals. You don't have to, but that's what I like. So I'm just basing the measurements off of the image that I have here. So if you're trying to recreate this, you can do this any way you like. This particular one measures about 9.5 inches wide, and it is about a little over almost 6 3/4 inches tall. So what I'm doing is, first I want to make the page the width that the final product will be, and I'm going to make this cut down the side and save this scrap of paper. Now, I've been playing with this a little bit. I want to have a pocket, and then I like using the scraps that are left over because I didn't want my pocket that deep. So using this scrap, I'm going to turn it over so you can see the difference. I'm going to cut off whatever this width is from the height of the page. Then, using my other page as a guide, I'm going to lay this in here on my paper cutter, and I'm going to score at what would be the height or bottom part of this page. And I can fold this up, and now that's going to be my pocket. This is my page right here that I can work with. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this. Now if you used cardstock, that would make this a really pretty card to begin with, because you could put your sentiment on the front here, and then when they open it up, you could put a gift card or a photo or something if you were doing a birthday card. So think of it differently whenever you're looking at paper projects, because sometimes one can be used in another project as well. Now that I have this portion cut, I want to cut pieces that are going to go inside. I have a scrap of paper left over from the first journal page that I made for this project. And I'm going to cut this into a 4-inch strip. So by doing so, I now have enough that I can make 3 of these pages, because I'm going to cut this in half at 6 inches. And this now becomes a tag that's going to go in here. Of course, they're not finished yet. I need to punch them and whatnot. But now I have an extra that I can use on the next page. I'm going to set this aside for a moment. I have a little notepad. I got these, I believe, at the Dollar Tree. And I liked them because of the size. And when I went back, they even have more colors. So now I have more to choose from. I'm going to take 4 of these, maybe 3. 1, 2, 3 off. And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make 4 little notepads that are going to go with this little journal page. 2 of them I need to trim down because I don't want them sticking out past on my envelope. So I'm going to go in here, and I believe the measurement was 3 1/4. So I'm going to just trim off 1/4 of an inch here on both little stacks. I'm going to use the scrap that I saved earlier, and I'm going to cut 2 pieces at 3 1/4 inches. And I'll save this little piece. In fact, I'll go ahead and fold it in half, and that'll become a little card that can go on this journal. I'm not quite done with my paper cutter, so I don't want to put it away just yet. So I've got a page out of an old book, or a new book, and I'm going to trim this to be a 3 1/4 inch square. So I'm going to do 3 1/4, and I'm going to make 2 of these. These are going to become little corner pockets, so I'm just going to fold these over in half. I'm going to distress these, and then I'm going to sew around them, and those are going to be pockets that are going to go onto the envelope. Now that I've got these ready, I'll set those aside. Now I need to decorate these little yellow pieces that I'm going to add into the journal. And I'm going to do that by using my Misty again. This time I have the Botanical Banners. I always say that wrong. Botanical Banners has been loaded into my Misty. And I'm going to set this up on about the 3 1/2 inch mark, and just put a little magnet there to hold it in place. I'm going to use the distressed ink again. I don't have any browns in the Brutus Monroe inks yet, and I'm just trying to make this match my vintage look that I'm going for. I like using the Misty in case, like this one right here, didn't stamp all the way. Well, I just re-ink and stamp again. And now it's nice and pretty again, or the way it should be. I've got these 2 pieces stamped, and I had these pieces that I cut earlier. So I'm going to take these and fold them in half. That way I know that I've got them nice and even. I'm going to use a little bit of glue stick on here, and what I'm going to do is put this on the top of this little stack of papers. So I've just got a cheap, I think I'm almost out of this one little glue stick, and I'm just going to put just a little bit on here to help hold the paper in place while I sew. I zigzagged across the top here. Now, if you do not have a sewing machine, you can take a stapler and add a couple of staples, and then that becomes this little pad that you can use, okay? So you don't have to have a sewing machine to get this made. I've got a little scrap of paper here that I want to distress and make pretty. So I've got a punch, and I'm going to punch out the edge of this, and then I'll use the distressing inks to give some color. I'm making a little bitty corner pocket or corner tuck to use with this little piece of paper that I saved earlier. I'm going to use a little bit of glue stick on here to adhere these 2 pieces together so that it's one square. And I think what I want to do is turn this corner down a little bit. And I'm going to use the distressed inks around this to give it a little more distinction. I'm going to glue this little flap down. Alright, I think I'm ready to assemble this inside portion that I have started here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this little piece that I created on the flap. So now that's a little pretty piece that's on there. And this flap will open up. I'm going to use some Aleene's tacky glue and adhere down these little triangles. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue right along the edge. And you don't need a whole lot because it'll just gush out and then you'll have a mess. And sometimes I put too much. Now I'm going to put this on the front of this envelope. Just a little bit of glue. I've got my MISTI back out again because I need to stamp these top pieces to go on the cover of my little journal page I've created. Now these are going to go on the cover or the outside of my pages, and I want to attach these. Now if you don't have a sewing machine, you could staple it. Or, in my case, I do have a sewing machine, so I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch so that these pieces will stay together and not come apart. And I've zigzag stitched and I'm setting these aside. Now these papers here need to be punched for a decorative edge. They don't need to. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. So I've got my little Martha Stewart punch and I'm going to punch along this edge. I'm going to take some Aleene's tacky glue and put it just on the edge here on both sides of this newly decorated pocket I've created. Now here comes the fun part, attaching this new little page or envelope inside. Since this was going to be attached into a book, I don't want to add this right in the center because I have a secret to show you later. So what I'm going to do is offset this from the edge just a slight amount, mostly wide enough for washi tape, and I'm going to take some washi tape and go from the edge of this envelope to the other edge of the envelope and not going past it on the top and the bottom, so that this can be a little page that flips out. So as you can see, I did not go past the top or the bottom of the envelope. Now I'm going to flip this over gently and try to keep it as close to my page as possible. Use some more washi tape on the other side and do the same thing. Now, this was connected down here because it went over the top of my punched area, so I'm just snipping it with my scissors so that I have the full space, and this tag I made will now fit down inside, and I'll add one to the other side as well. And these little pages that I created earlier to write on, again I'm going to use some washi tape and I'm going to go right over the edge, but not going past the sides of this little pad. I'm going to flip it up, make sure it's nice and neat and flat, and add some more washi tape. Repeating the same on the back. My washi tape ran out. That's what glue sticks can help with. This was what was left on the paper roll when I pulled it off. So here's the page that I created, which again could be a card depending on the type of paper that you chose. On the front it has 4 little pieces of paper that are adhered. You could place a photo behind here and journal on top. Then on the inside is a journaling card and pocket. Then we have the envelope that I attached with the Brutus Monroe rose background, and then a scrap of paper to make a little tuck spot there. On the inside of the envelope, I added 2 little triangular tuck spots, and then we stamped another little pad of paper. This time I think I used 3 sheets of paper that are inside here, and it can be removed and you can write or put things behind. Same on the other side. This is just decorative, but what I want to show you about this is because of the way that it's adhered into the page, you now have the ability to go all the way in if you want to put something. Of course, you want to put something that will be able to fold, but you can put a bigger sheet of paper inside of there. So I thought I would share that. I thought that was kind of a neat way to be able to use this paper. Then here's the other side, another tag, and then the back. I hope you enjoyed seeing how a different way to use your stamps and papers and make a different kind of project. Make a journal page, make a fancy folded card that you could give to your friend and add some neat little gifts inside. If you have any questions, please like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you check out the Brutus Monroe Facebook fan group. I'll have a link down below. Check out Brutus Monroe's website and the blog post that shows the products that I used here today, which will be in the description box. Again, like, comment, and make sure that if you subscribe, you hit that notifications bell so you'll get a notification every time a video comes up. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr. Of course, here I have a bunch of places that I am. So thanks again, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Bye.